All right, Steve Burkowski and Brentley Romine have been on site for us the last couple of weeks. They're doing an amazing job as well. So, gents, we have another occasion to celebrate tonight, and we have this new individual national champion while we're also looking down the road, not that far, at what's happening in the brackets.
Yeah, a lot to digest after this Monday here at La Costa, Matt. And we'll start with that individual race. Michal La Sasso, the junior for the Ole Miss Rebels, second Rebel to win an NCAA individual championship. He had some moments where it was, okay, is another speed bump going to pop up, Brentley? In a career, at least over the last couple of years, he's had plenty of things to deal with off the course that maybe hardened him for a moment like this.
Yeah, and first off, I thought it was a huge advantage teeing off a little bit earlier on the back nine, get through that tough stretch early. But you're right. I mean, I immediately thought to all the adversity that he's battled through when you think about the plug lives that he got on 15, 17, double bogeyed both holes. But when you go back to last year in the postseason at the SEC Championship, a stomach virus took him out not only that week, but he didn't count at regionals. He had a terrible summer. And I go back to a moment on the putting green at Ole Miss, first day of the fall. He's sitting there like, what just happened? He had no confidence. And Emerson Newsom, his assistant coach, who's walked with him most every round this season, came up to him and said, snap out of it. Like, come on, you got to go. Lo and behold, he has an All-American season and turns the boosters on that final nine and wins the NCAA individual title.
Yeah, you think about Braden Thornberry doing the same 2017, outlasting Scotty Scheffler at Rich Harvest Farms. Those two have a bond and a connection that maybe Braden sort of showed the way for Michal to do it here this week at La Costa.
Yeah, look, anytime you can lean on someone with as much experience as Braden Thornberry, but I think Braden has the type of perspective that a lot of people don't. Remember, he was the last member of that 2017 U.S. Walker Cup team to make it to the PGA Tour. For years, he was grinding on the mini tours thinking, am I ever going to get there? You could draw a parallel between him and Michal La Sasso. Am I ever going to get to that next level with guys like Jackson Coyvin and Luke Clanton, guys who I grew up playing junior golf with? This is exactly why he transferred from North Carolina State to Ole Miss, is to get into these types of situations. And I was talking to Chris Malloy, the head coach at Ole Miss, just earlier, and he said a couple months ago is when Michal La Sasso turned into a player who was ready for this moment, who won't get down on himself when things go haywire. And he's going to play in some big events coming up in the U.S. Open in a couple weeks and a likely invite to the Masters next spring.
That's the individual portion of this Monday here at La Costa. Now the race for 8, the team's moving on to match play starting Tuesday morning. Virginia, the men did what the women did a week ago. They posted, they waited. Were they able to do enough? They did. The Ole Miss Rebels also moving on. But it might be Florida State, the story that from the outside looking in, everyone thought the Seminoles and Luke Clanton would be playing tomorrow. That's not the case.
Look, they've had some really devastating situations here at this championship the last couple of years. When you go back to 2 years ago at Greyhawk with Florida upending them in the semifinals with Ricky Castillo making the putt. Last year, Auburn getting them on the 17th hole, Luke Clanton on his back after losing to J.M. Butler in the deciding match. And it was interesting because all the success that Luke Clanton had, he's obviously going to be on the PGA Tour this summer, courtesy of the PGA Tour University Accelerated program. But anytime he talked to media at those tour events, he always talked about getting back here, getting that revenge. It's just unfortunate. He shoots 76 today, and it's really hard to overcome your best player playing like that. But again, this team is a young team otherwise. We know they'll bounce back. They'll get back here. They'll get another shot. And we know Luke Clanton, all the talent in the world. I wouldn't be surprised if this inspires him to make a run. Perhaps, we'll see him at Bethpage later this year.
Let's pivot to tomorrow. A quick turnaround to the quarterfinals about 12 hours or so from now. What jumps off the page to you when you look at those 4 matchups of what we're going to see here early in the morning?
Well, we all know that the top seed in match play almost never wins, right? Oklahoma State in 2018, the only team to do that. But I can't help but highlight Arizona State. A year ago, they were a top seed at regionals, didn't get through, and Matt Thurman called me the next day and said, look, we just got caught flat-footed. We got caught a little complacent. And oftentimes when you win a lot and you experience a lot of success, that can be the worst thing for you. So this is a team that I think really stayed grounded this year. They've won 3 times just like they did last year, but they've they've almost spaced it out throughout the season. I think they've contended. They've gotten it from a lot of different people. Connor Williams, the San Diego native, has stepped up when maybe Preston Summerhays hasn't or Josele Ballester hasn't. They've ham and egged it really well. I really like this team coming off what happened last year to make a run and perhaps finally. We expect it to happen at Greyhawk, right? And it doesn't. Golf doesn't work out that way, but maybe it'll happen here in a couple days.
We'll have a rematch of the quarters from a year ago, Auburn and Virginia. And then, Matt, also Bedlam. Anytime Oklahoma and Oklahoma State can play a game of tiddlywinks or a quarterfinal matchup here, you know there's going to be a lot on the line. We can't wait to bring it all to you beginning tomorrow.
Love the insights. Love all the emotion that is behind it. Cannot wait for what lies in store. Thanks again, Burko and Brentley, for everything. A reminder, you just heard Steve saying that it's going to be a very quick pivot. Well, our coverage of the quarterfinals gets underway tomorrow at 1 p.m. Eastern Time, semifinals at 6 p.m. Eastern Time, and then we'll wrap it all up right here on Golf Central at 10 p.m. Eastern Time once play is completed for the day.